Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay awake. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time.
Okay, how is everybody? Hello, Darlene. Hello, Sandy. Rosewater, I am one down ass homegirl. Thank you. Knowles fan, hello, Truth and Justice. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Made on Maple. How is everybody? Just us chickens. Hello, Farron. Hello, Sandy B. Hello, Maestro. So I wanted to talk about, yesterday I was live, but I was live earlier, and I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm just a terrible self-promoter. What can I say? What can I say? So I'm live with William Ramsey at noon Eastern time, talking about Joe Rogan and his inviting back on one of Meredith Kercher's murderers, Amanda Knox, for another 3-hour liathon. That was a fun episode. If you didn't see it, catch it live. I would really encourage everyone to catch the replay. But back to Karen Read, that's the subject of today. Hopefully we're getting to the end of this trial. I've been talking about this case for so long. I'm ready for it to, anyone else ready for this to end? I don't know if it'll ever end though. I feel like even if she gets convicted of everything, we're going to still have the free Karen Readers doing standouts and protests and trying to get her out of responsibility for her murder of John O'Keefe. But I wanted to talk about today is something I didn't talk about yesterday, or not yesterday, the day before yesterday, which was the defense arguing that all charges should be dropped. This is ridiculous. What are we doing here? And of course, spoiler alert, it was denied very quickly. But Hank Brennan sums up the defense's sums up the Commonwealth's case so beautifully in such a short time, you know? And I wanted to share it with you, go through it, and starting with just kind of the tail end of Alan Jackson's Alan Jackson's presentation here, where he's arguing, and of course he argues once again, no collision, no collision, no collision. Take a look.
Count 2 or count 3. But taking count 1 and 3 aside, Those are separate counts because of the mens rea required and the high burden that's required, even taken in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth. What evidence have they proven that Karen Reed intended to kill or harm John O'Keefe, or that she intended to leave him for dead in the snow? The answer is none, zero. No reasonable jury could find Karen Reed guilty. This case never should have been brought in the first place. There are reasons that I won't go into here. The court knows those reasons, or knows our position on those reasons. This was a vindictive prosecution, and I believe that the court is duty-bound pursuant to the precepts.
Vindictive prosecution? Why? Because no one likes Karen Reed? I still don't understand. Please, someone explain it to me. The defense's argument that Karen Reed was this convenient outsider and easy to blame. How is it easy to blame the adjunct finance professor? So a money manager, I mean, like, I guess, is that what she is? I mean, she's in finance. I don't exactly know exactly what she does. I assume she manages people's money. I mean, how is that? She comes from a good family. Well, how was it easy to blame Karen Reed? I mean, Karen Reed left all the breadcrumbs, left all the evidence. I just don't get how why they would want to frame Karen Reed for this.
Rule 25A, as well as the principles of justice, to dismiss all three counts, and certainly taking count 1 and count 3 aside, the court is duty-bound to dismiss those 2 counts. Thank you.
In a light most favorable to the Commonwealth, the first issue.
So here's Hank Brennan coming up, and seems like he was expecting this. This is what I understand from lawyers, is that this is just par for the course, that you just ask once the Commonwealth or the prosecution presents their case, the defense is going to ask, like, say that they haven't met their burden, just drop all the charges, judge. And it rarely gets fulfilled, their wish. Here, Hank Brennan comes in and look how he moves through all the major points against Karen Reed so beautifully and so succinctly. Let's take a listen.
Look to his intoxication. A reasonable fact finder would find that the defendant was in fact intoxicated. Based on the serum conversion and based on Karen Reed's statements herself, you've heard many, many admissions by the defendant about her level of intoxication, which far surpassed the statutory mandate, that she consumed alcohol in a way that would affect her ability to operate safely. Those are just 2 of the cornerstone pieces of intoxication, which are clear, light most favorable to the Commonwealth, a reasonable fact finder could find beyond a reasonable doubt. The evidence of collision is abundant. I do not want to go through an entire closing argument or rhetoric, but suffice to say there are taillight fragments from the defendant's own Lexus, from her shattered right taillight, that are found in Mr. O'Keefe's clothes. Mr. O'Keefe is...
Right, microscopic pieces of taillight. Here's a point that never gets really highlighted. How do you plant microscopic pieces of taillight and embed them into John O'Keefe's clothes? And why I say embed, and I've been criticized by using this word embed, is because by the time they tested these clothes, they'd been moved around. My understanding, cut off his sweatshirt, taken off him. And they're still embedded in his shirt. I mean, how do you do that? How does Proctor do all this? Manipulate the phone data, manipulate the black box data in Karen Reed's car, plant pieces of taillight. How does he do all this? Please Help me, free Karen readers. And then the free Karen readers will just come back and go, well, Arca said, it's like a child. Arca said he wasn't hit by a car. Yeah, Arca, using cherry-picked evidence from the defense. They said if they had more evidence, it wouldn't change their opinion. I'm not even sure we're going to see Arca this time. I don't know who's coming up for the defense. I argued with my girlfriend. I said, she said, they're not coming up. They're going to get destroyed. I said, Karen Reed's going to want to put on as many people, as many resources as she can, I think. Just because she's a risk taker and she'll take a chance. I mean, they're already, Lucky Loughran is already in the courtroom Friday. Can you use that witness? And I mean, to rehash, he was really threatened by Aidan Carney. He's like, you should fear me. I can destroy your life if you don't testify for Karen Reed. And all of a sudden, there's Lucky Loughran on the stand with a whole new memory after Yannetti met with him in Michael Proctor's sister's elementary school, the elementary school where she was teaching. And he had what felt like a very scripted testimony. They must have drilled that down with him time and time again. But great cross by Adam Lally. I think Adam Lally's crosses are really forgotten. They really were excellent.
Left at the very spot where she expects to find him, according to her statements, where her car does a backing maneuver at least 24 miles per hour. He is left with injuries on his arm consistent with the damage to her Lexus right rear taillight. The scientific data is substantial. Telestream data, Apple Healthcare data, battery temperature data. And again, Ms. Reed's statements herself about clipping, hitting. The evidence of a collision in this case is overwhelming. It is a public way. Lieutenant Gallagher told us about Fairview as being a public way. And so as to the operating under the influence of alcohol manslaughter,
There he goes. The evidence of a collision is overwhelming. Then you have Alan Jackson just thinking if he just says it enough, no collision, no collision, no collision. I'll say it 3 times in a row. Create a rhythm. We're just going to buy it. And people are just going to repeat it. No collision, no collision. It's overwhelming evidence that something happened. How did really, do the free Karen Reed people really think that they scattered, they took pieces of Karen Reed's taillight and they walked back to the scene and threw them all over the snow with no one seeing? Really? They really think that? Help me out. I just don't get it.
the conduct of driving in that forward and backing maneuver after being intoxicated meets clearly the standard for OUI manslaughter. Regarding second-degree murder, as highlighted in my opening statement, the defendant engaged in intentional conduct that was her maneuver of driving forward, stopping, and then driving back to Mr. O'Keefe on January 29, 2022. Under the conditions that night, after being intoxicated, that conduct was intentional, and any reasonable person could find that her conduct that night created a plain and strong likelihood of death. There is no predicate of intending to kill or even intending to hit. There is clearly a plain and strong likelihood of death driving a 6,000-pound SUV forward and then back. In addition to state of mind, again, the defendant tells us herself. Through firefighter Becker, they're arguing, they're upset. We see the text messages, evidence of attempted breakup, and we hear the words of Karen Reed when she leaves numerous voicemails that night, and you can hear her voice.
So that was interesting. Did everyone pick that up? So they don't have to prove, like I've been trying to prove in my in my live streams, that she intended to hit him. They don't even have to prove that. They have to just prove that she had to know that there was a likelihood of causing serious injury or death going backwards at that rate and speed with him out of the car. They have to prove that she aimed to hit him, even though I believe she did. I believe that was her intent. I mean, to me, it seems like premeditated. I mean, you don't have to premeditate by hours. I mean, I think that this was a fantasy of hers. With the snow, serious, I mean, just leaving him, she knew if he didn't wear a jacket, it would be punishing to leave him there. She didn't think she hit him that hard, really? She didn't think he was mortally wounded? He didn't look mortally wounded, really, Karen?
There are statements, I do not want to go through a summary of all of them, but statements from the defendant herself where she acknowledges an injury to Mr. O'Keefe. She's the last one with him, where to find him, and her hypotheses about hitting and clipping him. As to leaving the scene, again, the defendant tells us that when she leaves, he doesn't look mortally wounded. She leaves him, makes dozens and dozens of calls, but never goes back to help him and leaves him to die. And we heard from Dr. Wolf about the life-saving procedures that could have been initiated. The chance of survival was never given to John O'Keefe.
Right, which was even a pretty low chance of survival. To survive what she did to him. It's 33%. I'm going to go through all her statements. Hank Brennan might not, but I'm going to go through most of her statements with you after this.
All those facts suffice under Lattimore, a light most favorable to the government, that a reasonable fact finder would find beyond a reasonable doubt, or could find beyond a reasonable doubt, each and every element of each and every one of these charges.
All right, thank you. So the motion is denied as to all three of them.
So it was denied, but right before that, did you see, people were talking about this. Hold on, let me go backwards. Isn't this where Karen Reed stares down? Oh, I went back too fast, too far. Stares down Hank Brennan in this hole near the end. She's staring him down once again.
Numerous voicemails that night.
She's turning around in her chair. And then on X, hold on a second. On X today, she's saying, I think it was today or yesterday, May 30th. So what was this, a couple days ago? She's saying Hank Brennan's habit. I mean, this is assumed to be her. We don't know. This could just be a free Karen reader. Hank Brennan's habit of trying to stare down Karen is obscenely unprofessional. A man trying to intimidate a woman with body language like that is disgraceful, and the jury will view him as a punk, in my opinion, ignorant. So then they put up a thing of micro dots. Hank got distracted by Karen Reed today. So when Karen Reed stared him down, he stared back. And that's his technique every single time. You can see in this clip. Take a look.
Is not factually viable. It will be distracting, confusing for the jury, and it could be unfair for either side, because it will lead to arguments about what it means without a factual.
This is like what teachers do when kids act out in class. They pause and stop and stare and don't, because they know they don't even have to say anything. This is what you do to children.
basis. And so my position is most conscientious, dedicated, admired.
Right. It's just, she's constantly like looking back at her father, never her mother. It's always like her father for help too. I think this is some of it. And if you see my closing, there's Karen Reed narrowing her eyes at Hank Brennan. I put a little circle around it so you can see it. She turns back and looks at him. This is when they ambushed Aidan Carney's hearing. She looks back at him and narrows her eyes at him. I mean, he's had to say things like, excuse me, is any of this funny? She's laughed. This judge, I think, has said one thing one time, which is that funny, Miss Reed, to her once. But maybe she's saying it in the sidebars. Maybe she's trying to control her in the sidebars. But another judge would not put up with this kind of behavior. They talk all the time through Hank Brennan's motions. It's so rude just that's what your notepad is there for. Write a note to your lawyer. You don't need to be whispering back and forth through testimony, distracting the jury. It's so obnoxious.
State police officers in Massachusetts. After having his name attempted to be sullied all over social media, attacking his integrity and his name. This in a way that is not factually viable, it will be.
So that's Karen Reed. Thank you. Wesley loves Octoberfest for gifting 10, count them 10, very generous memberships to the, I think they'll be handed out in random in the chat. Congrats to whoever got one. Snow Remover, thanks for being a member for 4 months. Tanya, nice to see you. Grant Smith Ellis's last short has the best view of the stare down. Okay, thank you. Are you really, is everyone anxious to see another Karen Reed stare down? All right. It's at the end of the day. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Also, in other words, people have been asking to see Alan Jackson. Asked about his meat blob. Here it is.
Karen, does the defense want to call Trooper Paul?
I don't have any comment. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, they're not going to call Trooper Paul.
What can you tell us about the cooking and the meatloaf?
Secret ingredients all the way around.
Okay.
And if you're lucky, you'll get some someday.
Oh, if we only be that lucky, if we can only get a taste of the meat blob, maybe it's good. It just looks, to be fair, maybe it is delicious. It just looks it's so unphotogenic. Let's put it that way. Let's be fair. It is incredibly unappetizing looking and unphotogenic. Karen Reed's own statements. Let's go through them, shall we? Okay. Hold on 1 second.
I didn't think I hit him, but could I have clipped him? Could I have tagged him in the knee and incapacitated him? He didn't look mortally wounded as far as I could see, but could I have done something that knocked him out and in drunkenness and in the cold didn't come to again?
And this would have been the moment you dropped him off at the party.
Yeah, would have had to have been.
That's the key question. Thank God that journalist asked that question. I call him a journalist. But thank God he asked that question. They were saying, oh no, you misunderstand. Here's clip 2.
I remember it, but I questioned what I remember it because it's been relived so much. I mean, when I see the video of me driving from the waterfall, like what I just described, tapping the brakes when I crossed the intersection, Washington over Sherman Street, do I actually remember that I kind of slowly proceeded through that green light? No, I don't actually remember that. But I've seen the video so many times that you then question, did I remember on my own? Or was my memory jogged? But I also wondered, did I say, could I have hit him? Or was it told to me that I said I hit him? And I knew I never could have said that, so the closest I must have said was, did I hit him? I know I said I hit him, but did I really say it as many times as law enforcement's claiming I said it? When my car was seized, there was a few small pieces of taillight missing that I had picked out at John's at 5:45 before we drove over to Fairview. I'm showing Jim and Carrie, look what I just did to my light, and I'm worried that there's gonna be some kind of electric short circuit. The bulb is showing, and some of the red plastic's missing. So I picked pieces out of the light housing that had kind of collapsed within the light and dropped them in John's driveway.
Oh, did you, Karen? Did you pick out the pieces? Did you?
They had pulled into the driveway before me, so I was presuming she saw my cracked taillight and was thinking, did you hit my son? I could sense from her that she was looking at me very warily. And then when John's nephew came home, I just wanted to see him and squeeze him. I don't know, it was quite uncomfortable. I sit down upstairs to the master bedroom. I said, I think I need to leave. I said, I think John's mother thinks I did something to John.
She oddly blames her cruel behavior on John's mother. She would have stayed and given her condolences if it weren't for the horrible O'Keefe family, specifically Peggy O'Keefe. She would have actually acted correctly and not totally in her own self-interest, with total callousness towards John O'Keefe's niece and nephew and the rest of the family, and contempt towards the rest of the family if they hadn't shown contempt towards her first, right? It was their fault. It was the way they were acting. This is someone who never takes responsibility for their behavior. I mean, it's a mirror. It's amazing to me that her lawyers didn't say, hey, maybe it would look better if you just admitted that maybe you could have handled things better. Why don't you just say you were in shock? You didn't know what to do. You had just come out of the mental hospital. You were out of your mind with grief. You just weren't up to speaking to anyone. And I don't know what. Anything other than blame it on Peggy O'Keefe and the O'Keefe family. And her father denies it totally. He's like, I know how to act. They made me a cup of coffee. We talked about their flooring. They spent $75,000 on a new floor because of water damage. Yeah. After their son was killed, they wanted to talk about the water damage. Come on. What? I know how to act. Never mind that I have a full-time guard sitting next to me in court officer, because I don't know how to act. My behavior's already been off the charts, unbelievably inappropriate and damaging to my daughter's trial. But in this case, I knew how to act. What? I offered my condolences. She was hugging the kids. It was wildness.
And his mother leans over the kitchen island and says to me, I think he looks like he got hit by a car. He looks like he got hit by a car. And his mother...
There's it again. Just more contempt for Peggy O'Keefe. Right? His mother leans over the kitchen island and says to me, thanks to Truth Over Bias, we put this all together on X. his mother leans over the kitchen island and says to me, I think it looks like he got hit by a car. It looks like he got hit by a car.
When you walked out of the bar, how many drinks had you had?
I had probably about 4, and not 4 that I completed either. I didn't drink maybe more than a few sips at the waterfall.
And 4 drinks you felt fine to drive?
Yep.
Yeah, I felt fine to drive. I had 4 drinks, but some of those you can't count because they were. Well, we didn't hear about how weak the drinks were then. Strangely, right?
And is the level of intoxication pretty high here for everybody?
It's happy.
Yeah.
It's
You'd had a lot to drink, right?
I wouldn't say I had like a normal amount. Let's say like a vodka tonic every 40 minutes.
Okay. And so are you feeling like buzzed? And I'm not judging, I'm just trying to get a
Yeah,
sense.
buzzed.
Yeah.
Yeah, buzzed. Yeah, what you said, buzzed. That's horrible interviewing skills, Gretchen Voss. Just leave it more open-ended. How are you feeling? Oh, yeah, buzzed? Yeah, I was buzzed. Lightly, just a light intoxication. Just a little buzz of the alcohol. Lena Barry, thanks so much. Thank you, Robert Chinnery, for becoming a new member. I appreciate it. Enjoy the emojis. Ay, ay, ay.
The final count of my alcohol intakes, probably about 5 or 6 or 4. The drink.
5 or 6 or 4. What is it? It doesn't matter. It's somewhere in there. 9, 10, 12, 13, 5, 6, 4. She cheerleader. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Let's count in twos.
That they were pouring me at McCarthy's, which is where I consumed most of the alcohol, was the weakest vodka tonic. It tasted just like old soda water with lime. Not that I needed to be a martini, but it might have had a splash of vodka in it. So
I'm so offended. It might have had a splash of vodka. Strangely, no one at the bar that night was complaining about the weak drinks except me. Because this is something I just entirely made up to try to normalize my behavior of throwing shots into my drink. You think the defense is going to call anyone else who was drinking at the bar that night? Say the drinks were so weak.
I said, John, this drink tastes like it has no vodka in it. He said, just get a shot and mix it yourself. So each drink.
See, it was John's idea. John wanted me to do this kind of really wanted me to do this behavior. And then he asked me to run him over 24 miles an hour in reverse right afterwards. He said, just keep putting the shots in in your glass, and then maybe later you can see if you can clip me 24 miles an hour in reverse with your infotainment system, beeping and flashing at you, telling you you're going to hit something. See if you can get away. Maybe you can murder me later.
Was being counted as a double, so I would get a vodka tonic, and then I would pour a shot into it, so that would count as 2. Frankly, it just felt like a regular cocktail. It was just a really weak pour, so I asked for a shot. So for my taste, it just tasted like that's the normal strength of what a drink should be. So I had maybe 2 or 3 that are being counted as 4 and 6. And I don't know. I felt fine. I felt like I was buzzed. And then there was one drink, the last one, that was giving.
Strangely, then there's Gretchen Voss's word buzz comes back into her vocabulary. Yeah, I just felt like buzzed.
Which I would have counted as 3, but they're counting as cocktail. The guys that we were with brought around the shots, and they gave me one that I didn't drink, but I poured it in my drink. So that's now my 5th and 6th drinks, with the 7th, which is a shot that all the men did, and I poured it. So that one glass that I'm holding, that I go into the waterfall with, has 3 drinks in it, a vodka tonic and 2 shots. And which is why John said to me, you're not leaving that drink here, like you haven't touched it and just poured a bunch of vodka. He's like, just take it with you, which was something he always did. So then I go in.
Again, it's John's fault that she took the drink or with her.
To waterfall, and I put that drink down and I would socialize most of the time. So that would have been like 5th, 6th, and 7th drinks. Then John orders me a drink at the waterfall that I don't drink, that he takes with him. And then there was a round of shots that Chris Howard bought that I did take. So that would have been the night.
Yeah, so what are you saying, 9 drinks? Have we actually gotten an accurate accounting of these drinks in both of these trials? I'm not sure we have. Okay. Look how long it takes to get through the...
I mean, I'm not as clear as I would be if I hadn't been drinking. I mean, I've had drinks, so, and that led me to question, like, could I have hit him? Did I run over his foot or hit him in the knee? Did I incapacitate him? I mean, I always drive with my music blasting ever since I was 16. And I know when John got out of the car to go into Fairview, I know my car was blasting because when I got in it the next morning to go look for him, I had to immediately turn it down. And I don't know, it's stormy. I have had a few cocktails. I didn't black out, but I wasn't as lucid as I would have been if I had gone to bed at 9 and drank a tea. But so I was fuzzier than I would have been if I had had no alcohol.
Yeah, I don't think the alcohol touches the sides, though, with her. I really don't. I think she's a habitual drinker. I mean, more than habitual, you know? Like, functioning drinker.
And I was going, you know, when I've had a few drinks and I drive, I always drive extra slow, so I know my alerts aren't as sharp as they should be. But I shouldn't have been driving. But I don't think I was driving. I know I wasn't driving recklessly. We've got plenty of video of myself driving all over the place. I put my car in John's garage, which is incredibly narrow, and I had a very oversized SUV. You see me. There's a video of me driving through the intersection when we leave Waterfall to go to Brian Albert's, and I was always taught by my father, even when you have a green light, you always should tap the brake. You don't know who's going to run red. And I see me doing that multiple times between 12 and 1 and 5 and 6 a.m. So I know I was driving safely, not as safely or as alert as I would be if I had no alcohol. But I was not driving recklessly by any measure.
Okay, she said she wasn't driving recklessly. End of story. Although she thinks she would have driven better had she not been drinking.
There was a woman who was a mother to kids that were close to John's kids who lived very close to the outlets. In fact, when Jen was navigating John to the outlets when I was driving, she said it's near Ashley's house. Ashley and John were hooked up prior to John and I dating.
Yeah, I was disappointed they played that one. I'm not buying this. Karen was so jealous. To me, it was an an attempt to just control John O'Keefe, keep him on the defensive. But I don't think she was already, at least, I guess that was fake news that we'd hear about other men that she had, some kind of tryst with. But, she was at least already looking to move on to Brian Higgins. I think it's just a means of control, and control is everything for Karen Reid.
Two things. Either he's hurt himself and is incapacitated. He could be passed out on someone's couch, which is just weird. We're not on a campus. Everyone lives in their own home with children, or he's sleeping with someone. And there were multiple women in the neighborhood of Fairfield that John had been with. And one of them very recently, before I started dating John.
Okay. Are you enjoying these? I'm enjoying them. I don't know about you guys. I mean, there's so many of them, right? I'd forgotten a lot of these that were shown. Myrna, she takes pride in drinking. She does. Myrna, she does. Good point. Thanks for becoming a YouTube member. Second Beach Gal. Appreciate it.
We'll backtrack later to the time we got to therapy, but let's start at 34 therapy. So who are you with, and pull up and what is?
I'm with Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts, and Carrie Roberts is Ford Explorer. And I'm in the back, leaning over the front two seats. Carrie's driving and Jen's in the passenger seat. And I describe this to everyone, so you've probably heard this before, but John looked like a buffalo on the prairie. It was just a lawn and a heat that it wasn't a bush or a hydrant or a dog. It was a weird shaped lump at that time in those elements.
What a way to disparage him. It wasn't an inanimate object, but it was sort of an inanimate object. It was a lump. Not my beloved boyfriend of 2 years. It's just a lump on the lawn. A buffalo. What a way to dehumanize, huh?
And I was looking to find him on the side of the road. I was expecting I'd find him. And the fear of what I was going to see is the worst feeling I've ever experienced. The anticipation of what is awaiting me was as extreme a feeling. I wouldn't say it was as extreme a feeling as the grief of realizing what happened to him.
No grief at all, no fear at all. That's what I get from that. I mean, she didn't have any fear. Everyone seemed to know he was dead. And here she is jumping on him, lifting up her shirt, and trying to warm him up by rubbing on him. It blows my mind. The odd behavior, never clearing his airwaves, never doing CPR properly. They all knew it was done, and here's Karen Reid just jumping on top of him. And then getting blood on her and then saying, "Do I have my period?" I mean, this was her beginning of her acting crazy, strangely, so her dad could get her sectioned at the hospital and psych evaluated so she didn't have to talk to the police.
So when John got out of the car at Brian Albert's house. He took my full vodka soda, which is sitting in the cup holder.
That was a crazy admission there. As I said, that I always felt it was her cup, her glass that John O'Keefe had. And then she admitted, she's like, yeah, he took my glass with Brian Albert's house. Let me go backwards on this one. Oh, it's backwards. Here we go.
I gave an interview with ABC with Matt Gutman. I think this was whom I gave the interview to, and I said, he asked, why was I saying, could I hit him, did I hit him? And I said, yeah, my first thought was, I've been out late, I've been drinking, and he's in the general vicinity of where I last saw him. I mean, they talk about the left side of the property and the right as if it's, Hammersmith Farms. It's a postage stamp. It's 50 feet. So he's in the front yard to the left of the front door, and no one's coming out of the house. Jen's telling me nobody's seen him.
Right, but why would you, if you were saying before that you watched him walk in the door. First you said you watched him walk in the front door, the side door. So why would you think you'd find him out on the lawn? Doesn't make any sense. And then the other time she said she was looking down at her phone at the crucial part, which always triggered me to think she was guilty. Why at the crucial part when you're dropping someone off at someone's house? The crucial part is when they walk in the door. Even cab drivers don't know me. Make sure I get in to my apartment building, okay? We'll wait and wait to see me walk in the building. But you're dating someone for 2 years and you're not waiting. You're something so important on your phone that you can't even describe what it is, that you have to look at it at that crucial moment. Come on.
So I'm thinking, Jesus, was I starting to pull away and I ran over his foot? Like, he's roughly where I left him. So yeah, when I found him, I was thinking, did I clip him somehow?
Again, she worries a lot about something that didn't happen.
Jen McCabe, it's me or her. Either I'm going down, Jen, or you are.
I think that's one of the more important, but I don't know if the jury's going to get it in context. We get it because we understand the context of the witness harassment campaign. Now, it's been mentioned a couple of times in trial, but depends on how much the juries know about Karen Reed. They know about this witness harassment campaign. It's crucially important. Are they going to get it enough just by the way that Jen McCabe was cross-examined? Maybe. It's a great clip, though. I mean, it's such a damning clip. To me, it says, I'll do anything to save myself. That's the meaning of that clip. I just picked out randomly. Carrie Roberts wasn't damaging because she didn't remember very well what happened. She wasn't that great a witness. She wasn't that damaging a witness. Her memory wasn't that good. She's too traumatized. But Jennifer McCabe was on the ball. So she had to go down. That's the way I see it. Let me know how you see it, but that's the way I see it.
Does Amy Wendell here, that you guys have really been going at it? This was sort of had like a last date element to it. Was that going on?
That was not going on. Just made it clear to me, I'm never breaking up with you. Not never that we're in this good or bad, but you're the best person I've ever.
I love the way they cut that off. He said he told me we're never going to break up. I've never had someone make that promise to me. We're never, ever going to break up. Ever, ever. Just that I was the best person in the whole world.
how John could have known about my text with Brian. And I'm not sure if he knew he would have reacted very strongly. I think we would have broken up, but I don't think John would have lost it and caused a fight. I didn't feel like John's emotions with me got really strong.
Yeah, he didn't really care about me that much. He was like, good riddance. I don't think, Brian Higgins, more power to you. You deal with Karen Reed. Told other people she's crazy. I don't think, let me just negate my whole defense here. Trying to blame it on Brian Higgins. I don't think Brian Higgins, that they would come to blows. How do the Free Karen readers watch these clips? Are they watching these clips? How do they watch these clips? Thank you, Lackadaisical. Very generous. Thank you very much for gifting 10 memberships. My understanding is they'll be passed out at random. Congrats to whoever got them. Appreciate your support. But how are the Free Karen readers listening to this and then saying, yeah, just believe the defense totally? Karen Reed telling you her defense is nonsense right there. Someone explain it to me. I don't get it. I really don't get it. All right, well, we're going to move on from that one.
So John's laying there, his left and his right, and I approached John from the left. That's where the street is. And he had a piece of glass, like perched on his nose, like just wedged like a splinter would be. And I just pulled it, and as soon as I pulled it, it just gushed blood down his face.
Which is odd. Does that mean she went up to him at the time? Because, I mean, you'd have to have a heartbeat, but then other people say the pressure from his brain swelling would have done it. Is that true? I don't know. It's so odd. It's such an oddly specific admission, no? But she is a consummate liar, so I don't know what to believe there.
So the approach from the north, we actually missed the turn, and John says to me, it's Fairview, we just passed it, it's back there, it's on my left. I said, all right, so I pull into a driveway and back out onto the street, which I now own as Cedar Crest, and then come from the north onto Fairview.
So I made a 3-point turn when I thought we were going the wrong direction. Strangely, like the Commonwealth says I did. Thank you so much, Allie, for the super sticker. Appreciate your support. Oh my gosh. How are you guys dealing with this? How are you, Miss Turd? Something to watch them all in a row, right? I wonder if the jury will watch them all in a row. We'll ask to watch them. I don't know who's on the jury. I don't know where this is going. We may be headed towards another hung jury for all I know. There may be Free Karen readers on the jury. I don't know. I just don't think she has much for a defense, but I didn't think she had much for a defense last time. So what do I know?
At 12:41, I leave a voicemail to John. You can clearly, and this will probably be played on Monday, you can clearly hear me pull into John's garage. You can hear my car sensors beeping as I come close to the sides of the garage truck. And then you hear the car go off, and then you hear the slight ding, ding, ding as I open the door, shut the door. I had high heels on that night. You hear me walk in, go into the stairs up into the kitchen, shut the door. You hear me walk in the kitchen. It's like a full minute long. That's at 12:41.
Yeah, I was strangely making my own evidence of when I got in, but it seems like she arrived because she hooked up to his Wi-Fi much earlier. I've read Innocence Fraud Watch's excellent blog. on this. What was she doing for those like 4 or 5 minutes? Was it something like that? Okay, I think we're getting near the end here.
I do. I mean, I'll tell you, John and I argued the morning of the 28th, Friday morning. So we think we died right around 12:25, 12:30.
Oh, we just got that from his cell phone data. How would they know that? I mean, that just negates their entire defense. Right at the time he dropped it off, he died the next second. Strangely, never leaving the lawn. I mean, that negates their whole defense. And how would she know that unless she knew the time, around the time that she dropped him off and hit him and clipped him, excuse me. It's not a hit. I don't like to use the word hit because it's really not a full-on, the way we think of car accidents, full-on hit. It's really like a clip on the side that, spins you around and lands you on the lawn. Where his head hit the hard ground and awful.
So I thought, could I have run him over? Did he try to get me as I was leaving and I didn't know it? I mean, I've always got the music blasting. It's snowing. I got the wipers going, the heater blasting. Did he come and hit the back of my car and I hit him in the knee and he's drunk and passed out and asphyxiated or something? And then when I hired David Yannetti, I asked him those questions the night of January 29th. Like, David, what if, I don't know, what if I ran his foot over? Or what if I clipped him in the knee and he passed out or went to care for himself and he threw up or passed out? And David said, yeah, then you have some element of culpability.
And that's when I said, hey, can I start my witness harassment campaign? If I have some culpability, someone else has got to be going down. That's when I started that. Ay, ay, ay. Anyone up for some DiSorga? Matthew DiSorga, the defense expert, where we left off last time. I thought I'd go over this. I mean, I just didn't think that this was very effective. Even Turtle Boy was like, what? I thought he was going to argue something like much more effective than this. He's saying they're off by 30 seconds. That's not all that helpful. So what if he's right? I mean, this would lead the jury. If I were on the jury, I would think, well, what if this is right? What difference does it make all that much? We still know that there was a reversal, that there was first there was a 3-point turn, then there was a reversal. I mean, the 3-point turn is just kind of like a marker, right? Then there's this reversal of her car at full throttle, almost full throttle, meaning 74.5%. Her foot is down, 74.5% down on the gas pedal. I mean, that is anger. That's what I think of, anger, hostility, to ram your foot that hard down on the gas pedal, going in reverse. And she hit him and he didn't move, from that point, his phone didn't move from when he was hit. And then you watch his phone temperature go down, 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 down. So even if Mr. PowerPoint presentation is correct, I mean, what he's talking about is really very weak. 3 seconds, 30 seconds, altogether being off. I mean, it doesn't change the events, right? Or maybe I'm missing something. Let me know if I'm missing something key here. Doesn't seem it seems like you're arguing a minor point to try to confuse the jury or just to try to disparage the Commonwealth's
Second variance,
witnesses.
or 30-second variance. That wouldn't shock you, would it?
No amount of variance would shock me, is the answer.
I want to ask you questions and go through your PowerPoint. And I want to ask you your specific opinions and how you arrived at certain claims that you've made.
Sure.
Okay? If we could put up Mr. DiSorga's new PowerPoint, 52525. You've made a...
Please hit the thumbs up, guys. Appreciate it. Share this episode. Leave me a comment. Taterbug just said something interesting. It's like arguing, did Ted Bundy hit those girls at FSU at 1 in the morning or 12:01? Exactly. I don't know how long I'll go through this, how long it'll keep my interest, but I promised I would go through some of it, some more of it.
Modification to your PowerPoint?
Yes.
You've made an amendment to your PowerPoint?
Yes.
So there was something that happened, you received new information or new data, and you updated or changed your PowerPoint.
I did.
And
So if you're just tuning in, we're watching Matthew DiSorga, who is Karen Reed's first witness in her trial, his cross-examination by specially appointed prosecutor Hank Brennan. We went through some of it on Friday. I promised to go through the rest of it. I'm going to see how much it can keep my interest. Hopefully it'll keep your interest as we move through it.
that's an appropriate thing to do when you receive new information, isn't it?
Yes.
If you have new data, you don't want to leave it behind. You want to make the best presentation with the best data you can.
I'd want my presentation of the data to be as accurate as possible, so I included all the data.
And you would expect that from any expert, wouldn't you? If they received new information or analyzed new data and it was important, it would be an appropriate best practice to update the PowerPoint or information they're providing, wouldn't it?
Objection. I'm going to allow that.
I don't know if I would tell other experts what their best practices are. I would say, generally as experts, we do work that our clients ask us to do. So if we're asked to do it, we do it. If our clients say, hey, don't do that, then we don't do it.
Well, you like the phrase best practice on direct, so I'm just wondering if I can borrow that phrase.
Sustain.
Okay. We can turn to page 2.
Right, Tanya, thanks for being a member for a month. I know it when Free Karen, I lose it when Free Karen Reed makes fun of the blue paint. It's all fake news. All of the evidence is corrupted, planted, not to be trusted unless it comes from hired guns for the defense, like ARCA, who've been exposed 17 different ways. Those are the only experts they listen to. They don't look at the totality of the evidence. They try to poke holes in the minutia because they can't really argue of any of the really serious evidence in this case.
Now, this is taken from Dr. Welcher's report.
Yes.
And again, you did no testing whatsoever. You just read
I did not.
Did you read all of Dr. Welcher's data, the gigabytes and gigabytes of data? Did you go through it all?
Not every slide, no.
Not just the PowerPoint. I mean the actual massive amount of data in his study. Did you go through the data?
Oh, no, I didn't look at any of the data.
Did you ever speak to Dr. Welcher?
No.
And so when you are making assumptions on what he thought or how he analyzed, you're just guessing.
I am looking at what Dr. Welcher put in his trial presentation, and my assumption that's baked in there is that he's going to stand behind the things he says in a presentation. So I'm taking them at face value, but as being correct.
It's not a matter
I'm
of
not guessing.
It's not a matter if he's going to stand behind it. You don't know why he put something in here. You just see it on the paper. You don't know what his thought process was, did you?
To an extent, yes, because I understand how the exemplar testing by Aperture laid the foundation to align the key-on events in the infotainment to the Lexus VCH events.
When Dr. Welcher made his PowerPoint, do you know whether or not he was relying on 154 on Mr. O'Keefe's phone, stamp 154, as the end of the event as opposed to the beginning of the three-point turn, 1162-1?
Based on the math he uses, that's the implication. He puts a number on the screen that the only way you could reach that number is by making that assumption. So when I looked at the math, yes, that assumption seems baked into the math he did.
So this seems like it's baked in that he was assuming 154 on John O'Keefe's phone was the end of the three-point turn.
Not on this slide, on a later slide, but yes.
Okay. And you said that variances, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, they're very common when you're comparing two different devices, right?
Yes.
Okay. Turn to the next page, please. You point out 2 times for the jury, the Lexus event, 11.
Yeah, I don't know if I can make this through. This guy is so it's so arguing over the minutia. I don't know if I can make it through it. Guys, who else has done so many interviews before? Well, that was their strategy. And it worked. I know someone was in here asking, who was it? Let me see if I can find it. I don't dispute this. I don't dispute it. Why free Karen readers? Why can't I find it? Why free Karen readers outnumber us 10-1? Because it's been a really powerful innocence fraud campaign. That's why. They're powerful. I mean, I've been through so many of them. At the time that Making a Murderer came out, the media was all over Stephen Avery's side. Everyone was on Stephen Avery's side. I was, this is an innocent man, and Dassey, Brendan Dassey, that they were both, innocent. And, then the prosecutor, Ken Kratz, who I happen to have on twice. I've actually had him on more than twice. Actually had him on talking about Karen Reed. Was out, throwing the real evidence that strangely, this activist documentary left out. So by the time Making a Murderer 2 came out, they still have their supporters. Like, don't get me wrong. But most of true crime knew the guy was guilty as sin. So, and then they move on to another innocence fraud campaign. That's how it works. Try to get the media loves it. They know they're going to make money. They're going to make money, get clout with these innocence fraud stories, and they love being part of them. This is a salacious story. Person wrongfully convicted, wrongfully accused. They love this story. So Karen Reed's objective, to answer your question, I don't even know if it was a question, but it's amazing, your statement, that it's like amazing that you did so many interviews. That was their techniques, to play this out in the court of public opinion, because they couldn't win in court. Had we had a fair jury, I believe, first time round, who wasn't talking to each other and bringing in outside information, and I hope it's not that way this time. Certainly a lot of effort was spent getting a fair and impartial jury for Karen Reed. All she needs is one turtle rider on that, or, free Karen Reader, doesn't matter, either take your pick, on that jury to hang it. She knows it. And they've said they want to sneak people on. People have said to Turtle Boy, I want to sneak on the jury. I'm getting called. He's like, don't get caught. So it's certainly not helpful to this side. It's not helpful to me to be on this side. You know, this isn't the money making side. This isn't the clout making side. Still have people coming to this channel saying, I love this show, that show. I agree with you on this and that, but Karen Reed, you're wrong. And they do that, you know, as a pretty much, you know, every person's going to pick their favorite innocence fraud campaign and say, it doesn't make any sense. To me, it's all innocence fraud. You know, you're right on Amanda Knox, but you're wrong on the West Memphis 3. You're right on this, but you're wrong on that. Like, I just want a little bit. I want to believe in a little bit in innocence fraud. I just want to, you know, hold on to a little bit of belief that our media is not so complicit in this and that this isn't just such a massive, massive, massive fraud that's sweeping America, that no one's doing, you know, me and, you know, 3 or 4 other people are doing something about. What? Innocence Fraud Watch and, you know, Martin Pribe, me. We're the people who speak out about this subject. That's it. I mean, and maybe, but certainly from a different angle, maybe also I would include Actual Justice Warrior, sometimes talks about innocence fraud, but always from a position that race is hugely important. It's not, I don't see it like that. They'll try to get out anyone they can. And Karen Reed is the proof. You know, Karen Reed, Richard Glossop, there's plenty of white people they're trying to get out of prison. You know, for a while they were really trying to marry it to the Black Lives Matter movement, but they'll try to get out anyone they can. And Karen Reed has modeled her innocence fraud campaign on that. It doesn't make any sense. Free Karen Reed doesn't even make any sense. As she's being driven around in her Lexus, right? In these, you know, what do you call it? SUVs, excuse me. In these SUVs chauffeured around town, eating at the, you know, finest restaurants, drinking at the finest restaurants, living the life in the lap of luxury, hardly suffering at all. And yet people are saying free her from what? But the idea was to get her to give as many interviews as possible and put pressure on the Commonwealth to drop the charges. That didn't work. And when that didn't work, the effort was to poison the jury pool. And it may have worked. It may have worked in this case. I don't know. You know, I think the Commonwealth devastated Karen Reed the first time round, and I think they're devastating her the second time around. I think the evidence of her guilt is, to my eye, overwhelming and indisputable. So it doesn't really make any sense. I mean, does it make any sense to you guys? I don't know. You say that too. Patricia Byrne says, I'm so glad you do say that. Yeah, I say to the free Karen readers, you're aware that she is in fact free. You are aware of that, right? So we have a whole new day tomorrow. We don't know what they're going to bring up. I think I'm going to keep it short. I know, are you guys, I don't know. Let me just check in. Maybe I'll do 5 more minutes of this guy, but I'm bored with him. I'm bored with him already. I'm bored with him already. I'll wait for you guys to catch up on the delay. But I mean, if you really want to see DiSorga get kind of destroyed in cross-examination, I don't know. I'm just so bored with him. That's how I'm feeling. Bored of him. Lucky will be on tomorrow. Any comments on Proctor's friends being called? I talked about that Friday. Looks like they're not going to be allowed to do that, is my understanding. Oh, DiSorga? Keep on. All right. I'll do more. All right. A little bit more.
62.2 ends 12/31/43, right?
Yes.
And that's based on the clock in the infotainment system.
That time is based on 2 things: the clock in the infotainment unit and the cumulative key-on timer in the text stream data. So it's a combination of two values.
Which is the running clock.
Correct.
Right. And that is...
Why do you say that? You think the jury will be deliberating for a long time, Miss Lisa? Why do you say that? I'm curious. You might be right. I'm just curious what your thinking is. That's all. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just wanting to know what your thinking is. Jackie D. I love that. Someone else is like, I'm bored with this guy too. Act out is bored. But I'll try to play some of it and stop interrupting it. But every defense witness is a bozo. Yeah. Yeah, I just went over it. They're not getting the Proctor, but I don't think they're doing anything to not bring in Proctor, which I think is so funny because they've made him the heart of their defense case, but they won't bring him in, which should, anybody who's a free Karen reader should ask themselves why they don't want to bring in Proctor. Why isn't Proctor their first witness? Why don't they take him as their witness? If it's so obvious he planted all this stuff and did all this stuff and had so much bias, why not bring in Proctor? And this became apparent to me weeks ago that they weren't going to bring in Proctor. Just by the way they were answering the question, are you going to call Proctor? The answer should have been yes. Yes, of course we're bringing in Proctor. Is the Pope Catholic? Of course we're bringing in Proctor. Jackie Blue says 1.5. It may be a long... I don't know. I'm just curious why you think it would be long. I don't know who's on the witness. I don't know who's on the jury. I know they're all under 45, which scares me. They're all very young. Stop messing with their cognitive dissonance. Yeah, shouldn't they wonder why they're not bringing in Proctor?
Compared or contrasted or coordinated with the log on off time that was found on the SD card. Yes?
Yes.
And without that SD card, we wouldn't have that time now, would we?
Correct.
Okay. 123209 isn't something you analyzed, but you just read in the report that that is information from Ian Whiffen, suggesting or taking the position that was the last user interaction John O'Keefe had with his cell phone, 123209.
That's how I understand it. There was a phone lock at 12:32:09. I did not look into the underlying reports from where that came.
And you know those are two different devices, two different clocks that will have a variance.
Yes.
You mentioned trigger event.
I know the Lucy Leppi case. That baby killer is frightening. I'm very aware of the Lucy Leppi. You don't have quite as much innocence fraud. Someone was asking me just about this. Well, there's not so much innocence fraud. There just isn't the payouts there are in the UK. And they're working to reverse that. They want to model it on the US so that you can get these multi-million-dollar civil payouts where the bar of evidence is much lower. No one from the original case is left over. It's just a mess. Our civil courts are so manipulated and abused, really. Yeah. So, yeah, it's Lucy Leppi. It's ridiculous. And I know journalists are jumping on that. Like who was the journalist? I talked about him on X. She was behind me at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, looking for a free place to stay. And so it just seems like his career took a dive, and then he's going to try to revive it with attaching his wagon to Lucy Leppi. That's a frightening woman. Frightening. Frightening, the idea of her getting out. All right, back to this.
And you said that your preference is to, when you're doing times, to pointed from the actual trigger event, and there was a little slap for emphasis to target you on that, right? The trigger event. That's not a standard practice or a protocol that is supported by any type of literature, is it?
It's the methodology I teach, especially in the class I teach on the analysis of heavy vehicle data. We have the exact same problem with heavy vehicles. They all have clocks on them. And so in fact, I do a lot of clock adjustment on heavy vehicles relative to other sources. And the way I teach it, the way I'm not the only instructor, collectively, the way we all teach it is we generally start the analysis at the trigger, which is not to suggest you have to do that. It's not wrong to do it a different way, but that would be let's call it the default methodology.
The default.
I love the way Karen Reed nods along with this. Did you guys see that? Watch Karen Reed. Watch Karen Reed when he says default. But when I was a juror, it was like over a year ago now, but it was on a child predation case. The victim, now 16, came and testified, was excellent. Her mother testified, her grandmother testified. It was her grandmother's husband who did it abused her from age 4 to 8. And he testified for the defense. So the accused, it was awful. The first vote was 11-1. We had one holdout. Okay, guilty. And we all thought this guy was guilty as sin, except this one woman who misunderstood a lot of the evidence and who seemed like she was on there just to kind of nullify the jury. I felt very frustrated. Every time she gave her reasons, she was like, I thought he was credible. I was like, what did you find credible about this monster on the stand? But okay, I didn't say anything. I knew I would be more harmful than helpful if I spoke up. But right before we convicted him, there was 2 women who started crying for this predator, child predator. Crying that he was going to maybe go to prison. I was like, aren't you happy we've seen the whole victim's family. Aren't you happy for the victim? And then this other guy in the jury said, well, there are a lot of wrongful convictions, but I don't think this is one of them. I was like, yeah, like what? Like what wrongful conviction case? I was ready to set him straight. He changed the subject. But yeah, they've been indoctrinated to believe that our court system every day is just wrongfully convicting them. I mean, think about all the people that have to be wrong for a wrongful conviction. I'm not saying they don't happen. They're just very rare. Police have to be wrong, right? The prosecutors have to be wrong. The jury has to be wrong. The appeals courts have to be wrong. It's a lot.
Different way, but that would be let's call it the default methodology.
The default methodology, do you have any professional literature that says that is the best time to start the analysis?
Not literature. I mean, that's sort of my opinion, because that introduces the least amount of variables. Once you start trying to align events off of subsequent times, you just introduce more addition and subtraction or math you have to do. So it's easiest to do T0 and align everything from there.
If you're lining up the end of one event with the end of another event, it's more coordinated than if you take it from different spots, isn't it?
That could be a scenario where then you wouldn't use it. Right. Like I said, it's not the only way, but it's the default way.
I don't disrespect your method, but there are other ways to do it.
Yeah, everyone in the UK should really speak up about Lucy Letby. She is really the worst of the worst. And I bet no one who's campaigning to free her wants her in their home, babysitting their kids. So maybe when Karen reads over, I have to, I know the case, but not at the level that I'd like to know it to really talk about it in depth.
Absolutely. And that's why I didn't change the convention here. I used their convention,
so you're
apertures.
Not suggesting that Mr. Burns was being misleading by choosing the endpoint when he pronounced that's exactly the point he was considering, are you?
No.
And so the word cherry picking, you're not saying he was cherry picking, are you?
I don't remember the context in which I used the word cherry picking, but I don't think it was with respect to a trigger alignment.
So there's no legitimate professional basis of suggesting your way is better or worse than going from the front or the end of the event?
No.
So you're not offering criticism on that, so just so I understand.
Not criticism. I pointed out that it's not typical, and I pointed out not even to say specifically that it's not typical, because even that, to your point, might sound critical. I just want to be clear that I adopted their convention. It's not the way I would have done it, but I kept that convention consistent in my analysis, so I wasn't changing in the middle, trying to obfuscate what I'm saying.
I appreciate that. So if someone's looking end to end, you're not going to add 5 seconds. It's if someone went from middle to end.
Could you give me that?
Yeah, you were
A little
suggesting
different.
those questions about, well, since you're looking at the end instead of the middle, then you got to add another 5 seconds on. That's not really an accurate analysis if you're looking at a comparison from end to end. You wouldn't then add the 5 seconds to the time of the trigger because you're starting at the end from both devices.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it if you can answer it in that form.
It's going to depend on if you're doing an alignment with something that is a range of values, then you have to be consistent on where you're doing it. If you're doing discrete points, then that's just a single point in time. There's no beginning or end. It's just a single second. So the best answer I can kind of give is it depends on what you're doing.
Well, in this case, you're basing it off the end of the event. The end, not the trigger, the end. Comparing it comparatively to the end of a different device. So you wouldn't just add 5 seconds just for the heck of it.
You would not add 5 seconds for the heck of it.
You see 12:32:09 minus 12:31:43, the middle line, equals 26 seconds. Isn't that in Dr. Welcher's slides before, let me phrase it more cleanly. Before Shannon Burgess analyzed the data more closely on May 8th, in his May 8th report, isn't this the exact difference in time that Dr. Welcher cites in his PowerPoint, 26 seconds?
Objection.
I'll sustain it in that form.
Did you see, when you reviewed reports, that Dr. Welcher uses...
Look at the way they talk through this testimony. So rude. So rude. Just yapping through their own witnesses' testimony.
This exact number plus 26 seconds in his report?
I got the number from the PowerPoint.
I'm sorry,
not the
PowerPoint.
report, but that is all of the numbers here on this slide are from Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint. And on the previous slide, I show that. So these are all just copied straight from that.
And you've...
John Sweeney. That's who I was trying to think of. John Sweeney. He was behind me in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial line. And now he's joined the looking for free places to stay, complaining about how expensive New York hotels were around the holidays and basically scrounging for a free place to stay. That's what it seemed like to me. Now he's hopped on the Innocence Fraud, Lucy Letby, Innocence Fraud campaign bandwagon.
You've labeled this John's interaction window.
I did.
Okay. Interaction window. Do you think it might be confusing when you use interaction window to make it seem like the event was limited to 10 seconds?
No, and that's not the implication there at all.
That's not what you're trying to say.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
If I can clarify what I mean by interaction window is that there's
Please do.
a range of times that we end up with when we start running these adjustments. So we never land on a singular point of alignment. We end up, like I showed at the end, with 30 points. That's the window that I'm talking about. That's the window that I mean.
So if we could put up page 33 from Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint, just to illustrate the point you're trying to help us with. Why can I have a little forward? So this represents, you've seen this, right?
It looks familiar, like it's from one of his slides. And if I've seen it, I did not spend a lot of time digging into it.
Does this look like the 10 seconds of data that would be captured from a triggering event in a text stream data?
Objection.
I want to see you at sidebar.
All right. Another sidebar. Karen, is this a long? Did we go to lunch or something then? No, it must have just been a long sidebar. Oh yeah, we were at lunch. Okay.
6 of Mr. DiSorga's amended PowerPoint presentation.
He announces amended PowerPoint presentation.
Sir, I want to ask you about your opinions, and inevitably, some of the slides that you've presented to this jury regarding adjusting the clock in a time period of 3 seconds. You have given an opinion that there's a difference that you see in the reports between when the defendant's Lexus is powered on and the infotainment system begins, correct?
Yes.
There's a 3-second difference on the exemplar vehicle between when the power is turned on and then the screen lights up, the ignition, the infotainment system.
The 3 seconds I'm referring to is the timestamp in the data from the SD card. So I'm referring to the timestamp in the SD card. It seems that that's coupled to the screen, but I just want to make it clear I'm referencing the data from the SD card.
The data from
So is it a 3-second difference or a 30-second difference? I thought it was a 3-second difference.
the SD
Then I heard them talking about a 30-second difference. I don't know.
card correlates directly to the infotainment system itself.
The date does, yes.
Because the SD card is, with the other chips, part of the board that makes up the infotainment system.
Yes.
That infotainment system powers the screen that goes on after a user presses the button to start the vehicle.
Yes.
So the time that the infotainment system is registering is when the infotainment system goes on, not the power on event.
Correct.
So that 3 seconds that was tested with the exemplar vehicle between pressing the button to turn the car on and the time the infotainment system turns on, the infotainment system clock does not accommodate that 3 seconds.
Correct.
So when we're talking about time on infotainment system, we're talking about after the 3 seconds when the screen comes on.
Yes.
Okay. Now you've made some slides and you've made some assumptions suggesting that that 3 seconds should be added to your analysis. And I want to ask you about your analysis regarding the 3 seconds. If we could turn to page 7, please. If you could zoom in on the left side. Sir, you told us that you didn't do any testing or data vetting yourself. You simply relied on reading and reviewing Mr. Burgess's report and Mr. Welcher's report.
Correct.
And really, the information you're reviewing is Mr. Burgess's report. There's only a few references in Mr. Welcher's report where he cites Mr. Burgess's findings, correct?
Most of it is from Mr. Burgess's reports.
There's really nothing in any of Dr. Welcher's reports that you are considering that is not in Mr. Burgess's report.
The .150.
Did you guys see this? I'm just apparently listen to this. This is from this day. Her whole fan club at lunch because there's no more buffer zone. It's just screaming for her when she comes out.
Respondent Matt Johnson, who is outside of the courtroom in real time. Matt, we understand they are on a break, and you were here to tell us something about what happened during the morning break, which would have been earlier. So they're on a lunch break now. Is that right?
They are on a lunch break. This defendant, Karen Reed, just walked out with her attorneys, her supporters surrounding the courthouse, cheering for her as she's making her way to her SUV. Today is day one of the defense case, and the first witness out the gate, as you mentioned, really focusing on the...
Such a violation, you know, that they overturned that buffer zone. I mean, Karen Reed should want a fair trial for herself. It's just, what are jurors thinking when they go out and they see all these Karen Reed fans? I mean, it could be called juror intimidation, for one.
The data in the initial report by Shannon Burgess. This is Matthew DiSorga. He's a vehicle computer data expert. He's really analyzing the data in the Commonwealth's case in chief from Aperture about the trigger event and the time shifting to line up Officer John O'Keefe, the victim's cell phone, to Karen Reed's SUV. On cross, he was asked if his role was to just criticize other people's work. Let's listen to both.
Do any of the data indicate that there was a collision on January 29th, 2022 at any time? What did you find in terms of any data regarding a collision?
Neither of the events that occurred on that date were triggered by a collision.
When you talk about text stream data, you know that text stream data does not record a collision. You know that.
A collision is not one of the triggers. That's correct.
Are you sure you know a lot about text stream data?
Yes.
Today is going to be a full day of testimony. It's day 24, wrapping out week 6 of the Karen Reed murder retrial. And this jury, I have said it before, I'm in that courtroom, and they love data and they love experts. Taking a lot of notes, Julia, today during this all-important testimony for this defense.
That's really good insight, Matt, because we've been wondering how much of this are they...
Do they love Karen Reed's experts? They love experts and they love data.
retaining? How much of this are they paying attention to, or are they getting tired from all of the numbers? Tell me what the mood is like there, though, at the courthouse. I understand you were able to talk to the defendant?
Yeah, you're right. And the mood here is a bit more upbeat and different than the rest of this trial, or at least the past couple weeks. Of course, you have the ambulances passing, stopping testimony throughout the day. But outside the courthouse, the media was lining up at the start of the day one of the defense, trying to get a ticket inside the courtroom. As I mentioned, I have a ticket this week. I'm in the courtroom. And then outside the courthouse, Karen Reed, during one of the extended breaks this morning, she walked across the street where we had already been posted up. She walked over to greet some of her supporters. She was hugging them. I decided that that was a good opportunity to ask her a couple questions. Take a listen.
Well, I know most of them personally at this point over the last 3.5 years, and they're here every day, and I can't tell you what this does to my spirits every day. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I can't help but smile. Anyone in my position would, seeing these people.
That's why I'm the happiest murder defendant. It's not because I have no remorse for killing John O'Keefe. It's just that I'm so happy that I have supporters. They're the ones making me smile. That's what you mean.
Rain, sleet, or shine.
Yeah, what's it like to be a defendant and a second time?
I'm a little more tired this time. But I don't feel weaker. I'm just physically tired, but spiritually, I feel maybe even stronger. Feel battle tested this time.
And the start of your defense case, how's that going?
Well, very well, I think. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
the subject would all be about relationship violence. If she were a man who left those voice messages, reversed into her police officer girlfriend, right? A man did. The subject would be completely relationship violence, coercive control. I hate you. What if it were a man saying, I hate you? I don't know, Jonah, you're a slut, you're a whatever. Say, this is a obvious case of relationship violence. But because the sexes are reversed, we don't hear anything about it. It's just a case of, a drunken accident. Even though we see the signs of coercive control all over this case. No, that's the way I see it. DV. Yeah. And so, you can hate on me. You can say, I don't know. I mean, this is like the one little advantage women have. It's just, we commit less crimes, but we have some advantages in court. It's just true. You can't deny it. Can't deny it. Because we commit less of these violent offenses, we have somewhat of an advantage. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get why a lot of these things were left out or not talked about in this trial. I get that you don't want to distract a jury. I'm not a lawyer. WD40, did I thank you? Thank you for the super sticker. Appreciate it. But I'm going to leave it here. I'm a little bit, I guess I just don't have the patience I usually do. I don't have the attention or the patience tonight. I'll be on tomorrow morning, a little before 9, to watch the trial with you guys. I appreciate everybody who's watching it with me. I have some fun things to show you tomorrow. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this episode, support my work on Venmo. Link is in the description. Buy me a coffee. Link is in the description, or Patreon. Another great way to support the channel and get access to content you won't get anywhere else. I appreciate you all, and thank you for watching with me. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a great night, everyone.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence, fraud, campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, carry, gin, gin. Like John, you were my mark. My innocence, fraud, campaign is my biggest hit. Yeah. I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. With lying lawyers and witness harassment, I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown.